We'll start with Mr. Byrd.
I am familiar with that. For some strange reason, the discoveries passed all cases on a test, and I got that discovery by accident, and we didn't took it back over to the prosecutor and told her, I don't think it was intended for me. That's another case that I think should have gone to the grand jury. I know a lot of you know, if you're a family member, you may well, that was a murder or whatever. I'm not going that far, but it was wrongdoings. It needed to be put out in the sunlight. It needed to go to a grand jury to let the citizens decide whether it's enough to go to a trial. And if it's not, you got enough explanation. But to decide these things with just one or two attorneys with no explanation, we aren't going forward. I think from what I read in the paper, the sheriff's office felt pretty strongly about it. From the evidence I saw, I felt pretty strongly about it. So I think it's handled properly.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Well, it's a short answer on this one, because I have no knowledge of that case. What the knowledge I have is exactly what y'all have, is straight from the newspapers. That case was handled strictly out of the Coney County office. So I had no doings or involvement with it whatsoever, so I really have no knowledge, can't comment on the facts and how they've been different, because I do not know.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Well, you know, we say it's handled out of the Oconee office. It did happen in Oconee, right on the other side of Clemson there on the bridge, and just barely out of Pickens County into Oconee County. The Oconee County Sheriff's Office did investigate. The Oconee County Sheriff's Office was never able to arrest anybody. So from my role, it's simple. Unless there's an arrest made, there's nobody to prosecute. If there's nobody to prosecute, there's no case. So there's no decision there for the solicitor to make. And why, you know, I'm really sorry for what happened, and I don't know a whole lot about it either. I mean, I know Mr. Campbell doesn't, and I really don't either. I was doing other cases and handling other things. The solicitor spent a lot of time up there during that time and was out there and met with things. What she knows about it, she didn't share. So I basically don't know anything what the papers and I'll say either. But unless there's an arrest made, it's just very simple. Unless there's an arrest made, there's nobody to prosecute. If there's nobody to prosecute, we can't do anything. I will tell you this, if there is ever an arrest made on that case, I'll prosecute it to the fullest extent that I can.
Thank you. All right. This next question is fairly lengthy. We did ask this during the sheriff's debate. It seemed maybe a little more appropriate for this debate, but I'm going to read the whole thing as written. The question will be at the end, and we will allow 3 minutes response for this question. All of us, candidates and members of White Plains Community Watch, know who makes trouble for our community. Additionally, your campaign flyers list the problems nicely. We get the problems, but here's my concern. When an honest citizen is the victim of a crime, we all usually either know who did it or have a pretty good idea of who did it. We usually know who the burglar is, who the strong arm robber is, who the drug pusher is, etc., etc. But when these people reap the inevitable consequences of their actions, such as getting shot, an amazing thing happens. They are transformed from criminals to quote unquote unarmed teenagers or some other seemingly harmless entity. I feel personally this is encouraged by 3 groups. 1, a political party that finds such labels to be a useful way to divide us up into easily managed voting blocks. 2, media, both local and national, that need sensational stories for newspapers and for the evening news. 3, and last but not least, plaintiff attorneys who find quote-unquote unarmed teenagers to be much more better clients than bad guys. As a result of this transformation, taxpayers, the original victims of the crimes, are then called upon to compensate the criminal or their family with huge cash settlements, paid with the victim's tax dollars, and designed to avoid bad publicity and expensive court process. And the cop gets fired or thrown in jail for shooting the bad guy. Here's the question. Do you have any ideas on how actual law-abiding people, elected officials, or citizens can push back against the system? Mr. Campbell, we'll start with you, 3 minutes.
Well, when it comes to pushing back, as it's called in this question, one of the things is people, but the question is that people are frustrated or angry that the same people keep being out. That's where this is going. We see the same people over and over. And then, as the question states, people are labeled. They become, instead of a defendant, and technically kid, he doesn't know what he's doing, he had problems growing up. There's always some sort of category they're put in to lessen the severity of their crime or take accountability for their actions. And the way you push back is this, is that there has to be communication between the citizens, law enforcement, and the prosecutor's office. Between the Anderson and Coney County offices, you're looking at probably 5,000 cases that come through the office a year. When those files come across a prosecutor's desk, it's just a file. But to that person in the community, it means something. It's real, it's personal. They may have a personal stake in it, they may know the victim. So they know who does it and who is committing the crimes. And that's where that communication is key. Because the citizens have got to tell law enforcement got to tell our office, and we all three have to work together and target those people who are committing these crimes. Because y'all know who they are. And when we work together, we can make things happen. One of the things is law enforcement in our office, we've got to quit butting heads and get back to being on the same page. And when you get that, what happens is that we know who's committing the crimes, and then we target those people. Those are the people we have to go after, because those are the ones that are terrorizing the community and do it over and over again. And that's where a system has got to be set up, in which law enforcement flags them. As soon as it happens, they call the solicitor's office. Hey, this guy's got to commit another crime. We need his bond revoked. And that's where our office has to step in. When a defendant should not be getting 2 or 3 times chances to commit crimes while they're out on bond. And that's where that communication is key. Because they have a tendency to get out on bond faster than before we'll even know it. The time a person gets cuffs on them to the time the prosecutor gets the file, it could be 2 to 3 weeks. And during that time, that person has made bond and has committed more crimes. And that's where the legislators come in. I mean, legislators set the bonds. We don't. The prosecutor's office does not set bonds. People think we do, but it's not. And the legislators have got to start putting people in position that understand the legal system. Because the bonds, they can go make it and they get out. And they get out faster before the ink dries, they're out. And people are frustrated about it. But the only way to combat that is that we have a system in place in which law enforcement, our office, work together.
Thank you. Mr. Wagner.
Like, some things, we do have to work with law enforcement. There's got to be some cooperation there. I can speak from my relationship with the sheriff's office and the guys in Oconee. We have a good relationship with those guys. We work well, we communicate. When they call me, I answer the phone. When they need something, I answer the phone. I took 2 calls on the way coming out here tonight from one of the city detectives working a white-collar case. So there's got to be communication between them. But the third prong of that, where I think possibly things have gone wrong in Anderson County, is the magistrates have got to set bonds on these guys, especially these repeat guys, that they can't make. They've got to set bonds higher. When they keep getting out on bonds, as Mr. Campbell referenced, and the Jeffrey Hughes guy, which I spoke about earlier, he's been terrorizing town, basically, he and his brother. I have had some calls about them because Oconee County is right across the line there from town. But my response to those calls was, well, until he gets into Oconee County, we can't do anything about it. Well, just a week or 2 ago, they strayed into Oconee County. He's sitting in our jail on a $95,000 bond, something to that effect. They haven't got out, and I don't really think he'll get out unless he can make it, which we will oppose. That's the type of guy that we need to keep in jail, fast track him into court. To get into court to try the guy, you've got to have him indicted. People don't realize that takes a month or 2 or 3. I propose we get indicted him a little bit quicker, which means you need to communicate with law enforcement. You've got to get that paperwork in. You've got to know what you've got. You've got to be able to indict the right charge, get him on there, and then try to get him on the trial docket quicker. When we've done that some, I know when the Dennis Temple raped that Clemson student a few years ago, we had him on the docket relatively quick, and he was a predator. We could not afford him getting out. And safety of the community is imperative on that. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if I'm addressing this question even because it was such a wrong question, and I'm not being critical of it. I'm not quite sure exactly what you want from me, but that's best I can tell you.
Basically, the question is, what can we do as citizens? Citizens involvement is, I guess, a better way to rephrase it.
Well, I would think report what you see, work with law enforcement. You gotta realize those guys got a tough job. Just because everybody knows he did it doesn't get us there. They've got to be able to prove it. So if you think you know who did it, report it to these detectives, let them know. You know, and then they got to work those crimes. You work some of those, the property crimes, you work with criminals, not so much the crime. Because you know who's doing it, and you know who your burglars are. Go find them. Find out where they're pawning this stuff. Work the leads online. We've got to have a better relationship with the pawn shops. I've had a good relationship with the pawn shops since I've been prosecuting because I've done so many burglary cases and so many property crimes. So you've got to know those people. You got to know where they're bringing the stolen stuff. And, you know, it is a whole system. You've got to have somebody that knows what they're doing.
Thank you. Mr. Burke.
Thank you. I agree with part of what Mr. Wagner said. The question is real general. I don't like general questions. I like specifics. That might be a better question to tell Willie. Mr. Wagner and Mr. Campbell have been in that job. They both just said they've been there 10, 11 years. So I don't think we should be asking what are you going to do. The question should be why haven't you already done something? I can give you another example by name, a guy that I know of personally. It has distribution of meth charges going back 4 or 5 years. He was put in the drug program, did nothing on the drug program, went to Georgia, was arrested, still involved in a big drug deal. Once they're in the drug program, the record goes away. The Georgia magistrate did not even know this